Morning everyone, great win yesterday. Really important result for West Ham against Watford. We needed that win against Crystal Palace. I feel like we're sort of back on track a little bit. Some big performances of players as well. And it was a relief. It was a relief to get that victory. And it doesn't quite carry the same buzz the morning after as the wins against Liverpool and Chelsea have for obvious reasons. But a good, solid win. Happy days, West Ham. But today's video is not about that. It's about David Moyes. 2 years today, David Moyes returned to West Ham back in 2019, taking over a club just outside the relegation zone after Manuel Pellegrini was dismissed 2 years and 1 day ago. I'll be honest with you, I didn't realise. I saw it yesterday and it sort of puts things in perspective a little bit because I've been a little bit grumpy. I've been a bit downbeat about our recent performances and results prior to yesterday's game. And when you see stuff like that, you think, crikey, we've come a long way in 2 years, haven't we? We've come a long way. And then yesterday, after last night's win, because it was the last game of 2021, I compiled the stats for West Ham's calendar year. They're blinking impressive. Now I'm going to do a video with Gonzo about 2021 in West Ham later on in the week. But today's video is about David Moyes' 2 years so far. A little bit of where we are today and a little bit of what the future might hold for West Ham under David Moyes, because my opinions have certainly changed during his tenure from when he was here to sort of a year ago to today, and I guess about the future as well. My opinions have changed all the time. For long-term viewers of the channel, I know what that is. For new viewers of the channel, you might be a little bit surprised, but we'll get into that. Well, now it's the point of the video, isn't it? When he took over, we were just outside of relegation, so we were in a relegation battle. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And I always had the belief that we had a better team, better players available than those around us at the bottom of the table. We had the Roberto problem. He was the biggest problem, weren't he? But anyway, Moyes come in, got Souček and Bowen in. And then COVID hit, didn't it? The league stopped. And at the time, I thought it was going to be a bit of a disadvantage for us because we'd just beaten Southampton 3-1. And I remember that game well because it was the last game I attended pre-COVID. And also, I thought we were fantastic. I thought we played really good football that day. I thought the atmosphere was really good. One of the best I've experienced at the London Stadium. In our next game, I don't know if it was directly the next game, but certainly we were going to play Wolves. And that game got called off at the last minute because, and I remember it well, I'll tell you why I remember it well, because I was due to fly down, I think it was on the Friday, and the game was on the Sunday. I was due to fly down on the Friday, and it got postponed on the Friday, about an hour before I needed to leave. So it was sort of like, do I go anyway? Because I couldn't get my flight cancelled. I lost my money on the flight. I remember that. I'm Scottish. I remember losing the money on the flight. I remember that more. That date is more easier for me to remember than David Moyes taking over 2 years ago. I'm show my colours here, haven't I? But when that COVID hit, I did wonder, every club, I think, you either won or you lost. I've got this saying that I use that there's no such thing as standing still in football. You're either going forwards or you're going backwards. And I think that's true. I think after COVID, when we had that little mini tournament, I think some clubs were better off for the break, and I think some clubs were worse off. I think Sheffield United were worse off. I think West Ham were better off. Moyes used that time to deliver fruit and veg, we know that, but he also used that time to sort of sort things out a little bit at West Ham. And when the football came back in behind closed doors for that little mini tournament, we were fantastic. We were one of the best teams in the Premier League. Antonio was the best player in the Premier League for that month. Brilliant, got the job done. We ended up comfortably staying up. And then last season, I mean, I didn't really realise until I was having a look at where we were a year ago after 18, 19 games in Premier League. We were 7th last season. I just assumed, wrongly, that we were higher than that. I just assumed that were sitting 4th, 5th or 6th or something in the league going into the January transfer window, because I know that when Lingard joined, we were 4th. I remember that. So how we went from 7th to 4th in a matter of a couple of weeks, anyway. So we're in a very similar position. We're better off this year, and we're sitting 5th as we speak. 2 years later, he took over. David Moyes took over when we were just outside of relegation zone. We were 1 point outside of relegation zone. 2 years later, we're sitting 5th in the Premier League. What a transformation that has been. But last season was just brilliant. It really was absolutely fantastic. We know what happened. We finished 6th, got the Europa League football. But the way we played football was probably more enjoyable than the outcome, if that makes sense. Because this is why it's a mismatch of a video. I think I've skipped out a little bit. Let me rewind a little bit to some extent. Apologies. When Moyes come back, I didn't want him back. I did not want David Moyes to return to the club. I mean, I can't pretend I did. It's well documented that I didn't, and I don't mind admitting it. There's this perception that people, when they do videos and stuff, they don't like being wrong. I mean, it doesn't really bother me, to be honest with you. I'm just honest, and if it's wrong, it's wrong. I'm just an opinionated Scotsman. I'm an opinionated tight Scotsman. Remember when he loses his flight money on a webcam? That's all. I didn't want David Moyes back at the club. I didn't enjoy his first tenure here when we stayed up. I didn't enjoy the football particularly. I thought it was a bit boring, a bit defensive, and I know even in his first spell after taking over from Slaven Bilic, it was a bit relegation battle, but I felt that we had better players and it wasn't that difficult to keep that West Ham team up in the Premier League. So I was glad when he left. So when he came back, I wasn't too keen. And then when he first started, when he first come back, I wasn't overly happy. There was 1 or 2 games I thought, oh no, this isn't. I thought we were going to go down. I feared for the worst. But like I said, that mini tournament were fantastic. But even then, I was still a little bit weary because I felt that it was unique circumstances. That month of Premier League football, I thought was very unique. It was almost like a World Cup style thing where you play game after game after game, no fans, and I thought this isn't normal Premier League football. It just felt different, and I refused, perhaps a bit too stubbornly, if you like. I refused to buy into it. I thought this isn't a fair way of assessing anything in the Premier League. Players were playing above the standard, some were below standard. Like I said, there was winners and losers in that football. There was players more affected by COVID than other players. Some players had lost, Pep had lost his mum, maybe not at that point, but what I'm trying to say is people's personal lives had changed drastically from pre-COVID. Then when they came back for that month, players' personal lives, and they are still humans at the end of the day, their lives have changed. They were coping differently. They had different levels of impact as well. And I just refused to sort of use that as a barometer of judging whether it's Moyes, the West Ham players, or other clubs in the Premier League as well. I just thought, hang on, this is just a completely unique set of circumstances. And then last season, obviously, it started off behind closed doors. I mean, it practically was behind closed doors for the whole season, wasn't it? There was some fans in here and there and stuff like that, but it wasn't anything to write home about until this season. But I changed my mind. I changed my mind on Moyes last season because I think one of the most important things I think in life, away from this stuff, is that when you get new data, you reevaluate. And there's nothing wrong with changing your opinion when you receive new data, whatever that is. And obviously, each game that goes by, I, as a West Ham fan, received more evidence from David Moyes and the players. And my opinion changed throughout the season. I enjoyed what I was watching. I thought we were playing some really, really good football. That was something I expected under David Moyes, to be honest with you. I thought the players were performing better. He was developing players really well too. And there was a lot to like about West Ham last season. In fact, there wasn't much to not like about West Ham. The transfer windows were going really well. Yes, I felt we should have replaced Sebastian Haller with a striker. I still feel like that. But Jesse Lingard come in and had a massive impact. I enjoyed what I was watching last season. Very, very happy. Last season was absolutely fantastic. And if you had told me at the start of last season we were going to finish 6th and qualify for European football, I'd have laughed at you. I've always been a bit of a fan of the Europa League. I know it used to get dismissed because there was Champions League, Europa League, and now that snobbery is now given to the Europa Conference League. I think a little bit of it is because it's Tottenham that's playing in it, and it's fun, isn't it? It's fun to look down your nose at Spurs. But West Ham were in that Europa Conference League next season. I'd be happy with that. I'm saying it now. I'll be happy with it because it's European football. I want to experience European football West Ham. I want to experience winning a trophy. Moyes has delivered one of those things, which is something I'm not seen another manager do in my lifetime. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Now, this season started, and if you said to me at the start of the season you're finishing the top half of the table, you'll get into the last 16, make a go of the Europa League, quarterfinals of the League Cup, beating both Manchester clubs along the way, unfortunately you get knocked out by Tottenham, I'd have taken that because I thought, well, we're obviously taking the cup serious in order to beat Man City, Man U, and that's what I want to see. I want to see us have a go at trophies. Unfortunately, and it sounds a weird thing, unfortunately we had a really good start to the season. I received new data. I changed my opinion. So I thought, no, I want European football again, and I still do. because I believe this squad is capable of achieving it. If we miss out and we finish 8th in the league or something, it's still a good season for West Ham. It doesn't mean it's a bad season. It just means that we're almost no longer punching above our weight, because that's something that Moyes has got us doing since he returned to West Ham United, and possibly the most impressive thing, apart from the transformation over the short period of time. I think that is the most impressive thing. I think some managers do it, but they need a little bit more time or a little bit more money. For Moyes to do it practically overnight in terms of Premier League, it's just unbelievable, to be honest with you. It is, isn't it? It's unbelievable, the speed of the transformation. But he's been delivering stuff that I've been dreaming of as a West Ham United fan. And then this season started, really, really good start. So I reevaluated. I thought, you know what? I want more of this European football. I was enjoying it. We know what we've done in the group stage, but we've done it without playing our first 11 in any game. We rotated reasonably well in European football, dealt with it easy, and then the form started, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, my opinion on David Moyes has changed, clearly, because at the start, like I said, I didn't want him back. Before someone said that, I've done enough videos admitting I was wrong. Like I said, I don't mind it. But he's doing fantastic. He's doing fantastic this season. And usually, when a manager goes 1-7, which was our record prior to Watford, usually eyebrows are raised. I didn't once find myself raising my eyebrows at David Moyes this time around, because it was sort of like, it'll fix it, I guess. It'll sort itself out. He's got, injuries to players. Perhaps something that hasn't always been afforded to West Ham managers in the past, when big players get injured, is sometimes not overlooked, but the inability to cope without that main players is what is sort of talked about, rather than the fact that we're missing players. And I think that's going to be the same for Moyes. We're missing Ogbonna and Zuma, and I think he's got a lot of credit in the bank, Moyes. So a lot of, if we were to lose games because of centre backs, because centre backs are missing, rather than because the ones we've got at the minute are inadequate, or we've been unable to see the games out without those players. And I like it. I think part of the reason I want European football again is because football's very short term these days. I enjoy watching a football documentary. Recently, the Arsene Wenger one's come out. There was one from Alex Ferguson a little while ago. I've just watched the Nottingham Forest one. And in all of these things that you're watching, it's all long-term projects. Managers have got time to do stuff, implement ideas and change the ways. And you look at football these days and what those three managers did in terms of running the clubs, because that's essentially what they did. You don't get that anymore in the Premier League. But I do think David Moyes is sort of halfway there, if you like, in terms of, he's certainly maybe not running West Ham United, but he's certainly influencing it. We've seen Rob Newman come in. We're adding more members to the scouting team because we know that David Moyes' son's been appointed to Rob Newman's team, but he's also gone and got George Santos from Marseille. And that's far too random, if you like, to not have been poached. It's almost like Newman said, I want him, I'm going to go get him. We've then just gone and got Grant Holt from Norwich City. So we're building that team a little bit in the background as well. We know David Moyes has assembled a good coaching staff team there. Had a bit of a blow when Alan Irvine left this season, or took up a consultancy role, if you like, but he got in Billy McKinlay instead. But with Nevin there, Nolan there, Pierce there, it feels like he's got a good coaching staff as well. And then we've got the under-23s playing really good at the moment. There's a lot of good things about the way that West Ham are run at the moment. It just feels like Moyes' got his fingerprints over everything. And that's rare in today's Premier League game. And I think sometimes in the past, whether with Pellegrini, Bilic and that, I don't mind saying this, only really Allardyce had a bit of an issue with. But apart from him, I quite like seeing our managers getting given time, because I always think, well, the problems for Bilic I thought would remain with the next manager. The problems with Pellegrini I thought would remain with David Moyes. And actually, to some extent they still are, but they're also changing a little bit. The club has evolved under David Moyes, and it's been fantastic. The club's going to evolve again, and I think this is the what's going to happen in the future, because we've seen Kretinsky come in and purchase a large portion of West Ham United, become the second majority shareholder, and we know there's a clause there where you can purchase the whole of the club in the 16 months time. And you do just wonder, well, if he does do that, and the assumption is he will do that, what's going to happen? And David Moyes has essentially had a 2-year audition so far, and he's got another 15 months to make his audition. But Kretinsky's comments certainly suggest that he's been impressed by what David Moyes has been doing. And if so, then that would suggest that David Moyes is going to be part of Kretinsky's plans for the future. And bear in mind, by the time this comes round, Moyes will have been at the club for 3.5 years, closer to 4 years than 3 years. And that's impressive. That's a long, long time in the Premier League for today's age. And I guess the question is, where can we go from here? And I think this is why sometimes when you want to see European football again, I want to see European football again, it's because of urgency. I just feel like in football, you've got to be quick these days. We've got the right manager in the right place at the right time at the moment. We've got Declan Rice at the club at the moment, and it feels like if we don't get European football this season, it's a bit of a missed opportunity. The club are in a good place. We're on the brink of achieving good things. We are achieving good things with the European football thing, but we want to see consistency now. And I think in the past with West Ham, whenever we've had a good season or a manager's had a good spell, it always felt built on a house of cards, didn't it? You know, we had that season at Upton Park with Slaven Bilic, with Dimitri Payet, was unbelievable, but it always felt like we were relying on Dimitri Payet, who almost was the Upton Park final season factor that big a factor, or would we cope with the move to the London Stadium? Because arguably the move was exciting and stuff as well. And it's always felt that we don't know what's round the corner, that the season was built on a house of cards and that things could go wrong very, very quickly. And it's been proven time and time again, it has gone wrong relatively quickly too. And I think the most impressive thing for me with David Moyes, rather than the short turnaround, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like there's a plan in place now, and if Declan was to go, he won't, but hypothetically, if Declan was to go in January transfer window, we'd be alright. Yes, we'd suffer a little bit, but we'd be stable. And when I did an interview with the reporter from The Athletic, and he was the one that broke the news of Kretinsky, named Kretinsky, he was the first person to name Daniel Kretinsky, and he came on. And there was a little bit in the interview that I disagreed with, because he said that we weren't really like a Premier League club. He basically suggested that we haven't established ourselves as a long Premier League club. I can't remember how he worded it, but he was basically saying that you're not a Premier League club just yet. You're not like a surefire thing. And I disagree with that. I think we are. I think bottom half of the table for West Ham this season would feel like a failure. And if I was to ask you right now, do you think we'll finish in top half next season? Not this one, next season. You'll say yes, 100%. I know you will. I will too. Because it feels like the foundations are at this club now are pretty solid, that we're moving in the right direction. And sometimes we take a step back. The recent form has been a step back. And I think the reason it not struggles, the reason that we get a bit frustrated is because we feel that we can achieve more with this setup, this squad, this manager. And at the times you get a little bit grumpy and a little bit upset because you know you can do well. And I think it's sometimes that phrase, isn't it, the hope that kills you. I think there is a lot of hope with this squad and this setup at the moment. What the future holds for David Moyes and West Ham remains to be seen, but I don't think it's a relegation battle. And to turn West Ham from a team that has been in a relegation battle pretty much every season since the move to London Stadium bar one, into a side that actually a bad season is finishing 12th now in 2 years. It's quite remarkable, actually. Turns out this opinionated tight Scotsman who grumps about losing his flight money can be wrong now and again. Quite like David Moyes now. I say now. I've liked him for quite a while, but you know what I'm trying to say. Quite like David Moyes. Quite like what he's doing at this club. 2 years. What a fantastic achievement. 2021 itself. What a fantastic year that is. I'll do a video with that, with Gonzo, on... It'll go up on the 31st. I don't know what day that is. My days and dates are all muddled up at the minute. It's going up on the 31st, right? Anyway, sorry for the long video. Sorry for the mishmash. Hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. To sum it up, he's done an alright job, innit? If you've enjoyed this video, drop a like on it, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll catch you on the 31st.